Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. Are you in the market for a good fixed blade? Check out the CIVIVI Elementum. This is the higher priced version. This is $84 and change, so let's just say $85. And then they've got a lower cost version for $75. This one's got 10CR15 COMOV, which is basically VG10. And the more budget version than this one has D2 steel. And it also has a flat slab G10 handle scales. This is nicely 3D milled and polished. Nice hollow grind. Oh, I didn't double check. I think the other one's got just a flat grind. $10 more. It's worth $10 more. All day, all night. This one comes with a leather sheath. The other one comes with a Kydex sheath. And yeah, if you're interested in a nice 4-inch fixed blade, of course, full tang, then you're going to want to check out this nice, sweet hollow grind drop point by CIVIVI knives. Model number C2104. This one's A. Nice Elementum. Feels great in the hand, but I'm starting to review. Let's get to the tabletop and take a good close look at it. First off, those prices that I gave you, that's American dollars from White Mountain Knives. You can save 10% off those numbers with coupon code CCE. And yeah, that makes this thing, instead of $84.50, it turns it into $76.05. More about this knife, we'll take a look at it. Leave that up there at the top of the screen. Let's take a look at the sheath that it comes in. It comes in a genuine leather sheath. The one big con that I have about this sheath is I wish they would have dyed the inside as well, so that the whole thing would be all black. Because as it sits now, you got this on, and it's on your waist. You've got just a little bit of, this bright color sticking out. It's not bright. It's, just a leather color. And then the edges and stuff. I just think it would look better all black everywhere. Got a nice snap there that holds the blade in. The knife's not coming out. It doesn't make noise. Well, that's a little bit of noise. Got to hold that to keep it from swinging around. Just a little bit of movement. It's not like a Kydex sheath where it's totally form-fitted. We've got CIVIVI's name embossed right there. There's no hole on the end of the sheath. You can always drill one if you want one. Of course, nice snap. Belt loop. Easily takes 2-inch belts, no problem at all. And then it's got that protector flap right there. So, yeah, quite nice. I'm probably going to get some dye and dye this stuff and make it black, at least on the edges, because I really think that would look better. Yep, nice welted leather sheath. The knife, that's the cool point here. Badging, very small. We've got CIVIVI up there on the flats right there by the top of the ricasso, and the steel is right there on the ricasso. Very hard to read unless you look really carefully. I like that CIVIVI does that. I like having the steel on the knife, but I like that it's nice and small and discreet. What do we have for a blade shape? We've got a nice little drop point with a very sweet swedge on it. This is a very good sort of a spear point shaped tip. Great for piercing. That's what spears are designed for, right? Very nice piercing knife. Very thin behind the edge on this hollow grind. Proper sharpness choil. I quite like it. They could have made that sharpness choil a bit smaller because it's almost a straight down plunge. So we could have had, another 3/16 of an edge here, another 3 millimeters of a cutting edge. But when you put your hand in there, you realize exactly why they made it as big as they did. you've got a sneak up choil if you want one. So doing delicate stuff, it works just fine. Even though it doesn't look exactly like a forward choil, like not rounded into the handle, it's just sort of flat. It works really well. They chamfer the edges, very comfortable in hand, very secure to hold this way, and very comfortable. The spine of the blade, it's got some jimping up here, and of course it's got the chamfered edges still, and very comfortable in hand. This handle is all polished. At first I thought, when I took it out of the box and felt it, I thought this thing was way too smooth, way too slick. But in actual use, it's fine, as long as you don't get your hands wet. So there is that limitation. If your hands are dry, it feels great. We've got a bit of a swell in the middle. They've milled it down a little bit right by the posts. And here it's just behind the post where it's milled down, right where my finger is now. It's thinnest. Very comfortable in, just a hammer grip, but comfortable in that forward grip as well. I'm very much liking this. We've got red accents. This is G10, so we've got red pin accents, and we've got red liners inside the liners. Very well done. Everything is rounded, everything's polished, and very nice to the touch. This is not, assembled and sent out the door. After the handle slabs are assembled, they do the final finishing. You can't feel any ridges at all along the spine, anywhere along the belly, none of that. We've got the lanyard hole in the perfect place, in my opinion, straight out the back. And let's take that lanyard off. It comes with this lanyard with this square lanyard on it. So let's pull that out. And there's the hole. Very well done. So if you don't like lanyards, it's just fine. But a nice lanyard on here is a good thing. I'd prefer just a lanyard loop so that I could wrap it around my hand properly so that when it does get wet, I'd still have a secure grip instead of this square lanyard. I don't like regular lanyards like those square lanyard on here for when your hands are wet, because how are you going to grab onto it? Maybe you can fold it over and grab on like that. I learned about this kind of lanyard and how to use it from David Pearson. He's got a channel called A Really Big Monkey 1, and it was in 2013 that I learned this. You take your knife, and the edge is pointing away from you. You take your hand, you put your thumb through like that, and then you just have to turn your hand, and you've got the knife like this, and it is secure in your hand. Like you're cutting on stuff and whatever, it's not coming loose. And if you let go of it, it just hangs there. So again, you take your blade, edge pointing away from you. You put your thumb in, palm facing you. Turn your hand, pick up the knife, and you got a solid grip. The trick is making sure this loop is the right size. So it might take a couple turns of don't tighten the knot up too much until you get the right length of a loop. And then you've got it ready for you. And that's a very secure grip. Everything from small knives like this to, huge machetes. That is the overview of this thing. How well does it cut though? This thin edge, it's sharpened not as well as it could be. It's actually sharpened quite poorly. But I resharpened it, and it's phenomenal once I've resharpened it. When I go through the specs and stuff, I'll tell you about the grind angles that they sharpened it to. And I'm actually quite disappointed, but that's my mantra, right? Cutting edges are done terribly at factories. They just don't know how to sharpen knives. And it seems like they don't care. We need to complain about that a whole lot more. But once I put a nice 18-degree edge on here, well, actually I started off with a 20-degree edge and I was cutting with it. and it's really good with a 20-degree edge, but I decided to put an 18-degree edge on it, and it's, oh, what a nice edge. And with this hollow grind, thin behind the edge, you'll be able to sharpen this thing a lot of times before you start getting it thicker behind the edge. And that's one of the biggest advantages of the hollow grind, is how long you can sharpen it for, how many years you can use it, and it still be very thin. It's beautiful. I just love this thing. I'm keeping this fixed blade. Nobody's getting this thing off of me. It's my favorite 4-inch fixed blade. It just is. It's great. And unfortunately, for my favorite knife designer, Ostap Hell, this thing beats his designs in my experience. I just love this, my favorite 4-inch knife. There's not going to be any teardown because that doesn't come apart. So let's now go over all the sizes and dimensions. The weight of this knife, it weighs in at 162 grams. That's 5.7 ounces. That's including the lanyard. The sheath here is 50 grams. What is that? 1.75 ounces. So together, 212 grams, 7.5 ounces. That's including the lanyard. That's light for a fixed blade, for the whole kit. The factory sharpness, even though it was sharpened poorly, it's still got 145 best. That's right on average of all the knives that I've reviewed over the years. I measured the sharpness of them all for the last few years, and yeah, average. But after I sharpened it, I got it to 30 best. That's before polishing it. That's without stropping. That's nice. The length of the cutting edge, 93.1 millimeters, 3.67 inches. The blade length tipped to the closest spot of the G10, 100.6 millimeters, 3.96 inches, so that's why we're calling it 4 inches. The thickness of the blade, 3.42 millimeters, that's 0.1345, so over 1/8 of an inch, very good. The thickness or depth of the blade this way, 26.2 millimeters, 1.03 inches. How thin is it behind the grind? 0.39 millimeters, 15,000ths of an inch. And 20 is usually what I want, 20 thousandths. But this thing's 15, and it'll stay under 20 quite a ways up the knife. The grind angles from the factory. This side, let's call it an average of 23.5. That's not terrible. This side, the average, 29.4 from the factory. They were consistent, though. It started at 29.5, ended at 29.4. So, very consistent along there. This side, it started at 23.3, ended at 23.7. So whoever was sharpening made a consistent, grind across it, but 23.5 and 29.4, that's just terrible. Like I said, I did it to 20 degrees and then I did it to 18 degrees. I think this steel, basically it's Chinese VG10, can handle being at 18 degrees for most things that you're going to cut. If you're going to go through some really tough stuff, sharpen it to 20 degrees per side. The handle length, it is 114.3 millimeters, 4.5 inches. The thickness of the handle at the thickest spot right there, that is 16.7 millimeters, 0.657. Oh, I don't list the most narrow part. The most narrow part right here, that measurement is on the screen. The handle depth, so the widest point is up here, 28.3 millimeters, 1.114 inches. The grip area, if you're just gripping it back here, we've got 9 centimeters, 3.5 inches of space. So your big hands can handle it. My hands are into the extra large range, and I've got just a little space. If you use the forward choil, we've got 10 centimeters, 4.25 inches. And the total length of this knife is 215 millimeters, 8.46 inches. So 8.5 inches, 4 inches here, roughly 4.5 back here. Very good proportions. the balance point on this knife. Right there. Forgot to do that before. Very well balanced. To summarize, what do I think of this thing? The pros. Really nice look in this knife. It just looks great. It's very well shaped for piercing. It's well shaped for cutting and slicing. Very thin behind the grind, which makes it cut really well. We've got a nice grip on the handle. We've got a nice forward choil. Very comfortable. I said how good it looks as well already. The jimping up here, I do wish it came up maybe 1 or 2 more notches, maybe 2 or 3, I mean, more notches up here, so that when you're doing the forward choil, that your thumb, at least my thumb, rests right here when I'm doing it this way. And I'd like that to have some jimping as well. There's no square edge here for, throwing sparks. For that, I would use the sharpener's choil right here, and I'd use that on my ferrocerium rod to throw sparks. And I tried it. It worked great. No problem at all, instead of using a cutting edge. You could, sand a section flat here or grind it flat if you wanted to throw sparks off the spine. What are the things I'd like to change or add to it? I'd like to add a dangle feature to this sheath. It's pretty good this way, but I like it to sit even lower on the hip. The budget version, it sits right here with your belt is down. At least this has the knife a little bit lower on your leg, and I like it even lower than that. I like a dangle feature, so a dangle feature would have been nice to have on there. What are the cons? Well, some people are going to find it too slick. And that's just the way it is. But like I said, use a lanyard, just a loop, and then you can have it snug in your hand and it'll stay in place better. Like I said, I wish the inside of the leather was all black. I think that's a con. And I usually like removable handle scales. Just in case, you're taking apart an animal or something and then, blood gets back there. But this is totally merged. You're not going to have any liquids come underneath there because they've been bonded together completely. So I don't really mind that there's no removable handle scales. One thing that you can change if you want to, you could take a file and just take the corner edge of a file, or take a triangle file and file in some lines, maybe even some hash marks go across, if you want more grip on this handle. I don't think it would make it look too bad. I just think this is better than D2. This VG10 at this price range, that's a good choice, I think. Technically, it's not VG10 because it's made in China, so it's Chinese VG10. So there you go. Oh, I forgot to emphasize the lanyard attachment point. That's a big pro in my mind, too. So there you go. The fixed blade Elementum, the better version. I really like this thing an awful lot. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And thank you to my supporters, my financial supporters, Patreon, or those who have clicked join just below the video. I appreciate your help an awful lot. It really does make a big difference. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.